and a group that saw one of the tournament favorites, Belgium, pull out the group with 3 wins. We also see Denmark squeaking on the last day with 3 points. Finland, surprising to me at least, finishing in 3rd, and Russia disappointing, finishing in 4th with a loss on the last day, which ultimately puts them out of the tournament. With that being said, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the group stage matches within this group and what I can see from the 3 teams moving forward, discussing their possible matchup, at least those that have been determined, specifically that of Denmark, and what I've thought of the team so far in their European competition, and whether they've had a success or a disappointment. With that being said, if you want more up-to-date information and my thoughts and up-to-date reviews and updates on all the action in the Euros, then this is a great place to be, as well as all of the updates on many transfers that will be going down this summer in the world of football as well. With that being said, let's get right into it. Starting off with day 1, the match that horrified and shocked many people. Of course, the Finland-Denmark game. We were very thankful that Christian Eriksen is well, is alive, is healthy, and is out of hospital. It was an absolute scare for absolutely anyone involved in that game, whether you were a Denmark or a Finland fan, a neutral in the stadium, on TV. Didn't matter. Everyone was in absolute horror. If you weren't, I genuinely have concerns. You should probably check that out. Nonetheless, it was very, very scary to watch. I'm very glad to see that Christian Eriksen is back healthy. But moving along to the actual match itself, obviously Denmark just weren't going to be themselves after this, having to play a few hours after. Sure, the players chose, but they chose from a few pretty crappy options from UEFA. They either had to play the game that night, forfeit the game and give up 3 points, or some other option that just was not good. And so they chose, and Christian Eriksen did call them or FaceTime them and tell them to move on. But you could tell these Denmark players weren't fully in the game, and I don't blame them one bit. I wouldn't have been either. I wasn't in it from a watching perspective. And so it's a very good result from Finland, and obviously what has gotten them into 3rd place with an outside chance, although not likely chance, at getting themselves into the round of 16. It was a FIFA match as far as the stats go. 23 attempts for Denmark. They had 64% possession. Only 1 attempt for Finland. But that was all they needed. Palo, I probably said his name wrong. Still don't know how to say his name. If anyone can tell me how to say his name, please let me know. But it's a one-shot, 1-goal game in the 60th minute for Finland, and that was all they needed. They were sound defensively, and Denmark just didn't really create that much. Of course, not having Christian Eriksen is a big hurt for them. And it was Finland's 3 points, and the only 3 points they needed to get themselves into 3rd in this group. Belgium comfortably took on Russia, and the first matchup for them in the tournament. Belgium really haven't looked too concerned at any point in time throughout this whole tournament. Of course, Denmark did have an early lead on them in their second game, as we'll talk about after, but Belgium have just looked strong. Their defense, of course, is still going to be the question mark, but their attack has looked very good. De Bruyne has just looked absolutely phenomenal. Lukaku's been putting goals in the back of the net. His presence, his runs up top has been very strong, and it was no difference against Russia, where they quite comfortably took this game to Russia and won it 3-0. They were up 2-0 going into the half. Lukaku finished with 2. It was just a good game all around for the Belgian side. And then they again beat Denmark. This was one of the games where if Denmark were going to try and win the group, this is where they were going to do it. I know some people did have Denmark as an outsider to win the group. Of course, they are many people's favorite dark horse, me included. That slightly changes a bit with Christian Eriksen out of the side for this tournament. But they're still a very good team and definitely could cause some upsets in this tournament. But however, we do see that Denmark got ahead to a great start, and you got a second-minute goal from Poulsen, you can't really be mad at that. But Belgium clawed back. They got a Thorgan Hazard and a De Bruyne goal in the second half, and ultimately that was all they needed. And Denmark were very involved in this game. Very involved. They had 22 attempts. Belgium had 6. They were very much involved. They were not just sitting back and defending. They had a good run of the play. They attacked a lot. They just couldn't quite get that finishing touch. But this Denmark side is not a side that's just going to sit back and be comfortable and just defend all game. They have the ability to do so. They have the players to do so. They have Delaney. They have Højbjerg. They have a very good back line, as we've seen now today. And even Christensen with scoring some of those goals, which we'll be talking about after. They have the ability to do that, but that's just not what they do. And I think they can hold on to the ball quite well and play a lot of possession. They just need to be able to create that final touch, and they just couldn't do it enough against this Belgium side. And that was ultimately the game that realistically sealed the Belgian group for them. There wasn't really too much doubt that Belgium were going to draw points against Finland. Moving on to the Finland-Russia matchup. This was a crucial game for both sides. If Russia dropped points here, they were really going to be in a tough spot going into their last game against Denmark. And for Finland, if they picked up a point here, then they pretty much all but sealed their spot into the round of 16. And they weren't able to do so. They allowed a good goal from Moranchuk, but it was poor defensively from Finland, in my opinion. I think they should have done better on the goal from Moranchuk. Flat right at the end of the first half. It's always tough to give up a goal right at the end of the first half. It's just a blow to the motivation going into their dressing room. But nonetheless, it was a game where Finland really could have used that point, and they tried to get that goal late, but they just couldn't do it. And ultimately, that's probably going to be where they end up falling and not getting into the round of 16. But it was a much-needed points from Russia, but ultimately it didn't matter, as they got thrashed 4-1 by Denmark on the day. There wasn't too much going on early on, and then Damsgaard scored an absolute beautiful goal early on in his first start of the tournament. He scores in the 38th minute. Poulsen puts in another one in the 59th. And it looks like Russia had a little bit of hope. Zubia puts in a pan in the 70th minute. But then the defenders of Denmark just shut that up. Christensen from outside the box put in a brilliant goal, and Mail as well in the 82nd adding on. And it just put Denmark in and gave them the goal differential they needed to get over Finland. And it gave them the 3 points that they needed to finish second in the group. And ultimately for Russia, this is probably a group they would have liked to at least finish third in, above Finland. They ultimately weren't able to do that. They needed that point or to not have as bad of a goal differential against Denmark. But they just couldn't pull that out, and that ultimately was their downfall. Finland-Belgium. Belgium, again, just looked comfortable. Herdecki had some very good saves. He played very well for Finland all tournament, as he was again today, but it was ultimately just too much. Lukaku had an offside goal disallowed, but had another one. And Vermeulen had a header that got marked as a Herdecki own goal off of a corner, I believe it was. Which is unfortunate. I would have loved to see Finland pick up a point against Belgium and try and get themselves into the round of 16. It's going to be unlikely now, but in my opinion, it has to be a fairly successful tournament for Finland. They're definitely not a consistent mainstay in the Euros. Definitely one of the weaker sides in the tournament. But for them to do as well as they have, they picked up a win and they have a chance to get into the round of 16, I think has to be considered a success for someone like Finland. You kept yourself 2-0 with Belgium. That is a success. Sure, it's not Belgium's full, complete side, but it was still a Belgium side out on the pitch. You can't debate that. And so moving into the round of 16, Belgium are now waiting to see who they will play as a third-place team. But Denmark are going to be set up against Wales, which if you're a second-place team and you're Denmark, you can't necessarily be too frustrated or mad at the fact that you're playing Wales. It's another second-place team. Wales have been good in the tournament so far. There's no doubt about it. They've been a team that has been known to go on Cinderella runs in the past. This is a team that has 3 goals and two against in 3 games. They're good defensively, not great. They're decent in the attack, not great. Of course, they have Gareth Bale, they have Daniel James, and the likes of Aaron Ramsey. This is a good team, but it's definitely a team that I would say Denmark are probably the better side and should be slight favorites. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a dogfight. But I think Denmark has to be fairly happy with the fact that they are going to be facing Wales, and they should be expected, in my opinion, internally at least, to get to the quarterfinals and see if they can progress even further and fulfill their projections of being a dark horse within this tournament. Because let's just say Turkey definitely didn't. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Belgium's going to be waiting to play a third-place team. I think Belgium should be quite comfortable. Don't really see there being too many issues with Belgium here, unless that third-place team ends up being one of the teams within Group F. And one of those teams within Group F is France, Germany, or Portugal. Hungary still have a chance to hop in there, in which they probably will be a little bit more comfortable. But if they have to play one of those 3 teams in the first first game in the round of 16, that's tough. That's tough. But I'd give Belgium a good odds of winning any matchup that are in. They may not be the favorites if they play one of those teams, but they're definitely going to be in a good spot and look to be very dominant again in this tournament as they hope to finally secure some silverware for the best era of Belgian football we have seen. With that being said, let me know your thoughts down below on Group B so far throughout the group stage. And if you guys want to hear my thoughts on Group D, as the England and Czech hope to secure their groups 1 and 2 as they play against each other this coming afternoon, morning for me, or I guess early afternoon if you're in the NA. Nonetheless, if you guys want my thoughts on that group, then be sure to subscribe if you guys do want more content like this, as I will be uploading my recap video on that group very shortly after the games are finished. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.